Your disabled brat should not be allowed in public," Karen screamed, pulling a gun from her purse. Before I could reach my daughter, the shot rang out. Blood spread across my little girl's shirt as she collapsed near her walker. What Karen did not know: this protective father was an ex-military sniper. Before watching full video, comment down. From which country are you watching? Like and subscribe for more Karen stories. It was just another Tuesday afternoon when my life changed forever. I was waiting in my truck outside Oakwood Elementary, watching for my daughter Abby. She is 7 years old and has a form of muscular dystrophy that makes her use a special walker to get around. Despite everything, she is the bravest kid I know. I always park in the same spot, far enough away to let Abby feel independent, but close enough to watch over her. That is what we agreed on after her mom passed away last year. Cancer, the worst 6 months of our lives, but we got through it. Now it is just Abby and me against the world. I saw her coming out of the school doors, her purple walker moving slowly as she navigated the sidewalk. She had a big smile on her face, probably excited to tell me about her art project. That is when I noticed the black SUV parked in the no parking zone right in front of the school. The woman inside was yelling into her phone, her face red with anger. I recognized her immediately. Patricia Summers, the president of our neighborhood homeowner association. Everyone called her Patrol. Pat behind her back because she was always looking for rule violations and sending out fine notices. I watched as Abby tried to get past the SUV. The space was tight and her walker bumped against the vehicle's shiny bumper. It was not hard enough to cause any damage, but Patricia noticed. She threw her door open, almost hitting Abby in the process. "What do you think you are doing?" she screamed, making other parents turn to look. "Do you know how much this car costs?" Abby froze. "I am sorry, Mum. I did not mean to. You little brat. You scratched my car." Patricia got right in Abby's face. I was already moving, pushing through the crowd of parents and kids. I was maybe 20 feet away when Patricia reached into her purse and pulled out a small black gun. My heart stopped. "Hey!" I shouted. "Put that down." Several people screamed. Abby tried to back away, but her walker got stuck on the curb. What happened next still plays in my nightmares. Patricia waved the gun around, pointing it at Abby. "This will teach you to respect other people's property." Whether she meant to pull the trigger or not, I will never know. The gun went off. With a crack that echoed across the schoolyard, Abby screamed, falling to the ground as her walker toppled over. I ran the last few steps and dropped to my knees beside her. Blood was spreading across her school t-shirt from a wound on her shoulder. The bullet had grazed her, not a direct hit, but she was still bleeding heavily. "Daddy," she whispered, her face pale with shock. "The lady shot me." Patricia stood there staring at the gun in her hand like she could not believe what had happened then. She dropped it and ran to her SUV. She was pulling away before anyone could stop her. "Someone call 911. I yelled, pressing my jacket against Abby's wound to slow the bleeding and get that license plate number. The next few hours were a blur. The ambulance, the emergency room doctors cleaning and stitching Abby's wound while I held her hand and tried not to fall apart. She was so brave, barely crying even when they gave her shots to numb the area. Officer Jenkins showed up while we were still at the hospital. He took my statement and looked uncomfortable when I described what happened. "We have already picked up Mrs. Summers," he said, "but I should tell you her husband is good friends with the police chief. She is claiming it was an accident, that she felt threatened when your daughter damaged her vehicle. She is 7 years old and uses a walker," I said through clenched teeth. "How is that threatening?" Officer Jenkins looked at his notepad. "I'm just telling you what she said. There will be an investigation." "There were at least 20 witnesses," I said, "and the school has security cameras. We will look into it," he promised. But I could tell he was just going through the motions. When we got home that night, Abby would not let go of my hand. "Is the angry lady going to come back?" she asked as I tucked her into bed. "No, sweetheart, I will not let her hurt you again." But I was not sure I could keep that promise. The next morning I learned Patricia had been released without bail. The news spread quickly through our neighborhood chat group. My neighbor Tom knocked on our door around noon. "Thought you should know," he said quietly. Patricia is telling everyone Abby attacked her, and she was just defending herself. Some people are believing her. How can anyone believe that? I asked, stunned. Tom shook his head. Her husband has a lot of pull in this town. They have lived here 20 years, host fancy parties for the mayor, donate to all the right charities. And, he hesitated. And what? And some people in the neighborhood do not like that the school lets special needs kids attend with regular students. They think it slows down the class. My blood boiled. Abby was one of the smartest kids in her grade. Her body might not work right, but her mind was sharp as tack. What am I supposed to do? I asked. Wait for the police to decide. Patricia's connections are more important than my daughter's safety. Tom put his hand on my shoulder. You were in the military, right? Before you became a construction foreman? I nodded. 6 years as an Army Ranger, including 2 deployments. I was not a sniper, like people sometimes assumed, but I knew my way around weapons and tactics. Then, sometimes you have to fight smart, not hard. Tom said Patricia has power and connections, but she also has secrets. People like her always do. He was right. That night after Abby fell asleep, I started doing research. Patricia and her husband Robert had lived in our neighborhood for 20 years. He worked as a bank manager, and she ran the homeowner association with an iron fist. No kids, just a spotless house and a reputation for making enemies. I called in sick to work the next day and drove to the courthouse to look up public records. What I found was interesting. Patricia had been sued 3 times by former neighbors for harassment and threats. All cases were mysteriously dropped before trial. The homeowner association financial records showed administrative expenses that matched dates when Patricia and Robert took expensive vacations. Most importantly, Patricia's gun permit had been issued despite being denied twice. Before the final approval came right after Robert's bank approved a loan for the police chief's vacation home. I was not the only one digging. The school principal called to tell me parents were organizing to support Abby. The security video clearly showed Patricia pulling the gun first. The local newspaper ran a small story about the incident, carefully avoiding details that would make Patricia look bad. But online comments were filled with people who had witnessed what happened a week after the shooting. Patricia and Robert hosted an emergency homeowner association meeting at their house. I was not invited, but Tom went and recorded everything on his phone. Patricia spent 20 minutes talking about how dangerous the school pickup area is. Tom reported afterward, she said kids with special equipment should have separate pickup time so they do not endanger others. When Mrs. Rodriguez pointed out that Patricia was the one with the gun, Robert asked her if she wanted to be fined for her unpainted mailbox. But Patricia had made a mistake by making the shooting an official homeowner association matter. She had opened the door for me to request all related communications under the homeowner association transparency rules. Her emails revealed she had been complaining about that crippled girl for months, saying Abby made the neighborhood look bad and lowered property values. I gave everything I found to Detective Sarah Moore, who had been assigned to the case after I complained about Officer Jenkins' handling of it. She listened carefully, took copies of all my evidence, and promised to look into it. This will not be easy. She warned the Summers have a lot of friends in this town. But what happened to your daughter was wrong, and I cannot ignore evidence of a possible cover-up. 3 days later, Patricia was arrested again, this time for assault with a deadly weapon. Illegal possession of a firearm. The gun had been modified to have a hair trigger and misuse of homeowner association funds. The evidence was too strong for even her connections to overcome. The hardest part was helping Abby feel safe again. She had nightmares about the gun lady. For weeks, she did not want to go back to school or play outside. The scar on her shoulder was healing, but the fear in her eyes broke my heart. Slowly things improved. Abby's classmates sent cards and drawings. Her teacher came to visit, bringing books and assignments so she would not fall behind. Our neighbors organized a meal train so I would not have to cook while taking care of her. Tom's wife started a fundraiser to help with medical bills 2 months after the shooting. Patricia's trial began. Her fancy lawyer tried to paint her as a respectable community leader who made a mistake in a moment of fear. But the evidence told a different story. The modified gun, the history of harassment, the emails calling Abby names. No child should ever be called. When it was Abby's turn to testify, I worried she would be too scared. But my brave little girl sat in the witness stand, looked right at Patricia, and told the truth about what happened that day. "I did not mean to bump her car," she said. "I said sorry, but she was very angry and called me bad names. Then she took out a gun and said she would teach me a lesson. I was scared and tried to get away, but my walker got stuck." The jury took just 3 hours to find Patricia guilty. On all charges, the judge sentenced her to 7 years in prison. Robert sold their house and moved away the following month. Our neighborhood changed after that. The new homeowner association board, led by Tom, created rules against harassment and discrimination. The school installed better security cameras and hired a crossing guard to help kids safely navigate the pickup area. Abby slowly regained her confidence, though she still sometimes woke up crying from nightmares. One evening about a year after the shooting, Abby and I sat on our front porch swing. She had had a good day at school, an A on her science project, and an invitation to a birthday party. "Daddy," she said, leaning against my shoulder, "do you think bad people can change?" I thought about Patricia sitting in prison and all the damage she had done. "I think some people can change if they want it badly enough. But the important thing is that good people stand up to bad people when they hurt others. That is how we make the world better." Abby nodded thoughtfully. "Like you stood up for me. I will always stand up for you, sweetheart. But you stood up for yourself too, telling the truth even when it was scary. That was very brave." She smiled and held up her arm where the scar had faded to a thin white line. "My teacher says this is my superhero mark. It shows I am stronger than the bad things that happened to me." I hugged her close, blinking back tears. Sometimes the world is cruel to innocent children. Sometimes the system protects the wrong people. But that day, sitting on our porch with my healing daughter, I felt something I had not felt in a long time. Hope, not just that Abby would be okay, but that by standing together against cruelty and injustice, we all might.